Salutations YouTube, Lord Gavrage here with episode 10, and before we get started I want to say I'm sorry for not uploading yesterday. I was having some trouble with my mic, then I fucked up my research for this, so I'm sure you understand. So again, I'm sorry. And also I want to say thank you for 100 subscribers. I asked for it by the end of the year, or the end of the month, or whatever it was. I think it was by the end of the year. I got it within a couple of weeks. So for that, from the bottom of my heart, really thank you all so much. On to the next milestone by the end of the year, and I do mean by the end of the year this time, 150, or maybe at a push, 200. Nah, 150 by the new year. I don't really know much about this killer today, but I am going to start this off with a story about this killer. It's a true encounter. I looked on Reddit for this, so it's going to be a bit vague, or I don't know. But before I start, I want to say, get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack, make yourself comfortable. Today I'm drinking, for the courtesy of the followers that love the British accent, I'm drinking a bottle of water. Well, so the story goes, this man, I think he served for many years, like served his country and whatnot. He retired, he had a good pension coming in, but he didn't really want to just sit around and do nothing, so he went to work at a local petrol station, or as other people call it, a gas station. And it was a small town, so no one really minded if he took his son with him, like to earn a bit of pocket money, or allowance as you call it. Then you'd think when his son was a teenager he'd be wanting to like do his own thing, but because there was nothing to do in that little town, he still helped out at the petrol station. So one day, or one night I should say, the son was outside, he was reading a magazine and drinking a Mountain Dew, when a woman walked past him. She didn't look at him, but he was watching her. And then he thought nothing of it, and then carried on reading his magazine. But he couldn't shake the thought of this woman, that there was something off with her. And she heard him, then he heard the woman talking to the dad, said, "Hey, you know, my car broke down, can you give me a lift to Ocala, which is the next town over?" And normally the dad's very pleasant and normally helps the other customers out, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to help you." And then the son's watching this from outside, and he can hear everything as it's very quiet, and they're the only two in the shop. She points to him and goes, "What about him? Is he your son? Can he give me a ride to the town?" And the son's looking at his dad, who's not in the woman's eye line, and he's shaking his head saying, "No. Like, whatever she wants, you are not going to help this woman." And the man said, "No, my son is not going to help you. You need to leave, and I do not want you to come back." So she storms off, cursing the dad out, and as she's walking away, she's cursing the boy out. And the son's like, "You know, why didn't you want to help her? You're normally so pleasant with your customers and always willing to help. Why didn't you want to help her?" And the dad was like, "I don't know. There was something wrong with her. I did not want to help her. I did not want her around you." So a few months go by. The son's in his room reading a magazine, and tell you what, this son loves his magazines, doesn't he? And the dad shouts, "Come down here, you need to see this, come and look at the TV." So he gets downstairs, looks at the TV, and he sees a woman who was arrested for murder, and it's the same woman who entered the petrol station. Her name was Aileen Wuornos, and that is who this video is going to be about today. So let's begin. Aileen certainly came from a tough background. Her first recollections were of her mother screaming while her alcoholic father administered another brutal beating. When she was 5, he abandoned the family. Her mother died when she was 14, and by the time that she was 19, she was all alone in the world. Her father having died in prison after having been convicted for sex offences, and her only brother having died of cancer. Wuornos then took to prostitution and armed robbery. Although she occasionally worked as a barmaid or cleaner, with her love of alcohol and drugs, she could never hold down a job for long. More often than not, she spent her time hitchhiking around the highways of Florida, sleeping on the beach or at the roadside. The last resort was more of a home to her than anywhere else. She sometimes slept on the porch or in the so-called Japanese hanging gardens, from whose trees the Hells Angels would hang the Japanese motorcycles that they despised. Nice. She was known to one and all as a foul-mouthed, ill-tempered drunk. When Wuornos was 27, she fell in love with the 22-year-old Tyria Moore. It was a deeply romantic affair, and Wuornos believed that Tyria would put an end to her loneliness, never abandoning her as all the men in her life had. She petted and pampered Tyria, stealing in order to lavish her with luxuries. In September 1990, Wuornos stole a car for Tyria, but when the two women took it for a spin down a dirt road, the car went out of control and they subsequently abandoned it. The pair had been spotted, however, and had been reported to the police. Their descriptions were entered into the Marion County Police computer, which then linked the two women to 6 murders that had occurred in the area. The victims had all been men whose bodies had been dumped miles from their cars. Each had been shot exactly 9 times, and a condom wrapper was found on the back seat of each of their cars. So yeah, she was a pretty fucked up woman. Shortly after the incident with the stolen car, Tyria left Wuornos and fled. In January 1991, the police traced her to Pennsylvania, where they arrested her for car theft. Tyria then broke down and blamed everything on Aileen, who, she said, had enticed Tyria into a life of crime, also murdering and robbing in order to buy expensive gifts for her. Wuornos was sleeping on the porch of the last resort when she was apprehended. At first, she thought that she was being arrested for a 5-year-old firearms charge, but when the police dropped the names of the murder victims into the conversation, she freely admitted having killed them. She explained that she had usually been hitchhiking when her victim stopped his car to offer her a lift, although she had sometimes pretended that her car had broken down and that she needed help. Either way, once she had got into the car, she had offered to have sex with the man and had then asked him to drive to a deserted spot. After having had sex, she had then exacted her vengeance on all mankind, killing her victim and robbing him of his money as well as all his jewellery. Even the hardened Hells Angels were shocked that they had been harbouring a manslayer in their midst. "It's scary, man," said Cannonball barman at the last resort. "Every one of those guys could have been one of them, and we would never have known where it was coming from. Mind you, I sort of think she would not have gone for a biker. We were her only folks. She was a lost soul, like most of us." This is going to be a part 2. This is going to be a 2-parter because I've not done enough research. I'm just going off what I found on the internet, compiling it into the video. And going back to that story, she asked the man to give her a lift to Ocala, where she had killed her next victim. So it was very likely that this man or his son could have been her next victim. By the time she went to that petrol station, she'd already killed 4 people. And then by the time she got arrested, she had already killed 3 more people. So she killed 7. She killed 7 people. She was caught, obviously, and she was sentenced to death on the, I think it was lethal injection. I don't really know. like I said, I've not really done my research for this one, so I apologise if this is, for lack of a better word, shit. I did not do enough research. I promise you the next one will be more laid out for you. But at the minute I'm tired, I didn't have time, so I understand if you don't like this video. In fact, I think the story was probably better than the actual facts itself. That's normally how it goes. But yeah, thank you again for 100 subscribers. Really means a lot. Like I said, 150 by the end of the year. I don't mind, but please just subscribe. It means a lot. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, then give it a thumbs down. Again, I'm sorry for the shit content tonight. I've not had enough time and I'm tired. I can't apologise enough, guys. I'm sorry. I can't apologise enough. But anyway, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night and peace.